The cathedral beneath ashen skies. Far beyond the northern kingdoms, where maps dissolved into wilderness and the mountains rose like broken teeth against the heavens, there stood a forgotten city called Valoris. Travelers rarely reached it, and those who did seldom remained long enough to describe it clearly. Some spoke of endless stairways carved into black cliffs. Others described towers suspended above the abyss by chains thicker than ancient trees. Yet every account agreed on one detail. Above the city rose a cathedral so vast that its highest spires vanished into cloud and shadow alike. It was called the Cathedral of Morning Stars. No bells rang there. No prayers echoed within its halls. And after sunset, the windows high above the city glowed faintly silver, though no fire had burned there for centuries. Cathedral Vale arrived in Valoris during the final days of autumn, when cold winds swept through the mountain passes, carrying ash from distant volcanic plains. He had traveled farther than most scholars dared, pursuing rumors of a manuscript known as the Nocturne Testament, a text believed to contain records from the final age of the Old Kingdoms before their collapse into war and plague. Most historians dismiss the manuscript as myth. Cathedral did not. For nearly 10 years he had searched ruined monasteries, abandoned libraries, and flooded crypts for fragments connected to the lost text. Every clue eventually pointed toward Valoris. The city unsettled him immediately. Stone bridges arched over bottomless ravines between towering structures, darkened by age and weather. Hundreds of narrow windows overlooked the streets, yet few showed signs of life. Hooded figures moved silently beneath iron lanterns that emitted pale blue flames instead of ordinary fire. Above everything loomed the cathedral. Its architecture appeared impossibly vast, blending towering Gothic arches with immense flying buttresses that stretched across the skyline like the ribs of some colossal creature. Countless statues lined its upper walls, robed figures with hidden faces, winged guardians clutching shattered crowns, solemn saints whose expressions had long ago eroded into ambiguity. Snow began falling as Cathedral crossed the city square. At the center stood a dry fountain containing a statue of a woman holding a star-shaped lantern. Someone had placed black roses at her feet. An old bookseller watched Cathedral studying the cathedral from beneath the awning of a nearby shop. "You should not wander near the upper district after dark," the man said quietly. Cathedral approached. "I'm searching for the cathedral archives." The bookseller's expression dimmed. Most who search for the archives are searching for something else. And what would that be? The old man glanced toward the enormous spires above them. The keeper. That night, Cathedral rented a chamber overlooking the western quarter of Valoris. The room was narrow and cold, lit only by candles that sputtered constantly despite the still air. Sleep refused to come easily. The cathedral dominated the view beyond his window. Long after midnight, he noticed movement high within the towers, a figure carrying a lantern, slowly ascending an exterior staircase impossible to perceive during daylight. The light vanished moments later behind the cathedral walls. By morning, curiosity had overcome caution. Kedron climbed the steep roads leading toward the upper district. Snow gathered across staircases and rooftops, while bitter wind echoed between the narrow stone passages. As he approached the cathedral gates, the city below disappeared beneath fog. The entrance stood open. Inside, silence swallowed him whole. The nave stretched farther than seemed architecturally possible. Vast columns rose into darkness where distant vaulted ceilings vanished from sight. Silver candlelight illuminated long aisles lined with statues draped in black cloth. Dust floated through the air like pale ash. No priests, no worshippers, only silence. Then footsteps echoed softly somewhere behind him. Kedron turned. A woman stood near the entrance, beneath a tall iron candelabrum. Her dark cloak fell almost to the floor, embroidered subtly with silver thread resembling constellations. Long pale hair framed features, touched more by melancholy than age. Though beautiful, her stillness carried something deeply unnatural, as though she belonged to the cathedral as completely as the stone itself. "You entered without fear," she observed quietly. Kedron straightened. "I was told the cathedral was abandoned." It was. Her voice echoed strangely through the vast chamber. And now it remembers. The answer unsettled him more than he wished to admit. "I am searching for the Nocturne Testament," he said. The woman regarded him silently for several moments. "Then you have traveled very far toward a dangerous truth. Do you know where it is?" Instead of answering, she turned toward the shadowed interior. "Follow me." The cathedral seemed endless. Corridors branched into staircases, spiraling upward through hollow towers, filled with ancient astronomical devices. Galleries overlooked enormous sanctuaries, where moonlight spilled through fractured stained glass, depicting eclipsed suns and silver-winged figures descending from darkened heavens. As they walked, Kedron noticed that no dust covered the woman's footsteps. At last they entered a vast library hidden deep within the eastern wing. Thousands of books lined iron shelves extending upward through multiple levels connected by narrow stairways. Chandeliers hung overhead, though no flames burned within them. Instead, floating silver lights drifted silently between the shelves like wandering stars. Kedron stared upward in awe. This place should not exist. "It existed before the city," the woman replied. He turned toward her. "You still haven't told me your name." She hesitated, then quietly said, "Sarah fell." The name lingered strangely in the cold air. She guided him through the library for hours, revealing manuscripts older than kingdoms, maps depicting lands swallowed long ago by the sea, and records written in languages Cathedral could not recognize. Finally, she stopped before a locked iron door carved with celestial symbols. "The testament lies beyond this chamber," she said softly. Cathedral stepped forward instinctively, but Seraphel blocked his path. "You must understand something first." Her expression had changed. The sorrow within it seemed deeper now. "The cathedral was not built for worship," she continued. "It was built as a prison." Cold silence settled between them. "For whom?" Cathedral whispered. Seraphel lowered her eyes. "For those who survived the fall of the stars." Before he could respond, the cathedral trembled faintly beneath them. Somewhere deep below, a low metallic sound echoed upward through the stone, slow, resonant, ancient, like chains moving in darkness. Seraphel closed her eyes briefly. "They are waking." The silver lights throughout the library dimmed. Cathedral suddenly noticed shadows moving behind distant shelves. Tall shapes, not human, watching silently. "What are they?" he whispered. "The last of the star-born." The temperature in the chamber dropped sharply. Far below the cathedral, another metallic sound echoed upward. Cathedral realized then that the entire structure had been built atop something enormous buried beneath the mountain itself. Seraphel stepped closer. "For centuries this cathedral kept them sleeping," she said quietly. "The testament contains the ritual maintaining the seals. And if the seals break—" The shadows between the shelves moved again, closer this time. "The city will vanish before dawn." Fear finally pierced Cathedral's fascination. "Then why show me any of this?" Seraphel's expression became unbearably sad. "Because I can no longer protect it alone." Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains despite the cloudless night. The cathedral groaned softly around them, as though ancient foundations strained beneath unimaginable weight. Then Cathedral noticed something else. Seraphel cast no reflection in the dark glass windows surrounding the library. He stepped back slowly. "You're one of them." Her silence answered him. The floating lights dimmed further. The shadows emerged at last from the farthest aisles. Tall figures draped in black ceremonial robes, threaded with silver. Their faces remained concealed behind smooth masks, resembling fragments of moonstone. They moved soundlessly toward the library center. "The Starborn were never gods," Seraphel said softly, "only exiles." The masked figures stopped several yards away. Cathedral felt an overwhelming pressure filling the chamber, ancient grief, endless loneliness, memory stretched across centuries beyond comprehension. You kept them imprisoned here. No, Seraphel replied. I kept the world from fearing them again. One of the masked beings raised a pale hand toward the iron chamber door. The locks began turning by themselves. Metal screamed softly against metal. Kedron's pulse quickened. What happens now? The testament must be read before midnight. And if it isn't? Seraphel looked toward the towering cathedral windows, where snow now swirled violently beyond the glass. Then Valoris will remember why the heavens once burned. The chamber door opened slowly. Inside rested a single black manuscript upon a stone pedestal, illuminated by silver fire. Symbols shifted across its cover like moving constellations. Kedron approached carefully. As his fingers touched the manuscript, visions flooded his mind. He saw kingdoms collapsing beneath falling stars, cathedrals burning beneath silver skies, winged figures descending through storms, while entire armies knelt in terror. And at the center of it all stood Seraphel alone atop the cathedral tower, watching centuries pass while the world forgot her name. The vision shattered, he staggered backward breathlessly. You've guarded this place for all this time? Yes. Why? For the first time, emotion entered her voice fully. Because someone once showed mercy to me when none should have. The bells suddenly began ringing. Deep, thunderous, not from towers above, from beneath the mountain. The masked figures turned sharply toward the darkness beyond the library. The chains below were breaking. Snow exploded against the cathedral windows as unnatural wind swept through the halls. Books fell from shelves. Silver lights spiraled wildly overhead. Seraphel seized the manuscript and pressed it into Kedron's hands. Read. The symbols across the pages shifted constantly, impossible to comprehend at first glance. Yet somehow he understood them, not through language, through memory. He began reading aloud. The cathedral responded instantly. The silver fires throughout the library blazed brighter. Ancient symbols ignited across the floor beneath their feet. The masked figures lowered their heads as the deep bells below grew slower, until finally silence returned. The storm ceased. Snow drifted softly beyond the glass once more, and somewhere far beneath the cathedral, the chains became still again. Exhaustion overtook Kedron. When he looked up, the masked beings had vanished entirely. Only Seraphel remained beside the towering windows. Moonlight passed faintly through her translucent form now. "You're fading," he whispered. A faint smile touched her lips. The cathedral no longer requires its keeper. Fear tightened unexpectedly within him. What happens to you? Seraphel looked toward the distant city lights below the mountain. For the first time in many centuries, she said quietly, I finally rest. Her form dissolved gradually into silver light. Within moments, only drifting ash-like particles remained in the silent library. Kedron stood alone beneath the endless vaulted ceilings of the Cathedral of Morning Stars. By dawn, the upper district of Valoris stood empty. The cathedral gates had sealed shut once more. And though travelers still occasionally speak of silver lights moving high within the towers after midnight, no one entering the city has ever again found the woman called Sarah Fell. Yet somewhere deep beneath the mountain, beyond sealed doors and forgotten halls, ancient chains still wait in darkness beneath the cathedral, silent for now beneath the endless ash-gray skies.